Hello everyone, so today we are going to talk about predicting reactions. Your goal is I can predict the products of a reaction by looking at the reactants. So how to predict? First, you need to know what type of reaction it is going to be. And you do that by looking at the reactants. What do they give you? What does it look like? So here I'm going to show a clip of me showing different reactants and how to tell which type of reaction it is just based off of that. All right, so now we are going to go over how to predict different types of reactions. And also when I go over this, I'm going to show you how to identify each type. So the first one is synthesis. So an example of synthesis would be Li plus S. Okay, so the way to identify synthesis is when you have an element plus an element. So when you see an element plus an element, you need to follow the following steps. Step 1, find the charge for each element. Okay, so let's do it up here just so we have some workspace. The way to find the charge, and you do need to be writing these steps down in your digital notebook. But the way you find the charge is by looking at the periodic table. It's just like how we did with the ionic bonds. It goes +1, +2, +3, plus or minus 4, -3, -2, -1. So Li is right here, so it's going to have a +1 charge. Sulfur is right here, so it's going to have a -2 charge. Then if you remember from last unit, now that we have the charges, you crisscross. So it's going to be Li2S. So your step 2, which we just did, was crisscross charges to make compound. Step 3 is to balance. Now I'm not going to balance these for you. You should be able to go back and balance. If you're not sure how to, go back to the balancing slide and rewatch those videos. If you just need me to check and make sure you're balancing correctly, you can email me or message me on Canvas and I'll be happy to check that for you. So now that we know the steps for synthesis, let's do one more example. Let's do Na plus O2. Step 1, find the charge for each element. So we have Na. We look at the periodic table. Na has a +1 charge. Now this O, there is a 2 here, but just ignore it. You just write the element up here when we're dealing with charges. So here we have O, it has a -2 charge. And now we crisscross. That 1 goes with the oxygen, that 2 goes to sodium. So that would be Na2O. That's how we crisscross the charges to make a compound. Now that we have this, you would balance this reaction by putting the numbers in the coefficient. All right, so the next type of reaction is decomposition. The way to identify decomposition is by it just being one single compound. There's no plus sign. It's just one compound and nothing else. This one's a little bit easier to predict. Step 1, separate elements. So, and then you put a plus sign in the middle, or put plus sign in between. So we would put Be plus O. Second step, check if element is diatomic. So if you remember from a while ago, the following elements are diatomic. That'd be H, N, O, F, Cl, Br, and I. If something is diatomic, that means that if it is by itself, there's two of them. So we'll look at our elements Be. Well, Be is not in that list, so we just leave it alone. Oxygen. Well, oxygen is on that list, so that means we need to put a 2 for oxygen. And then the third step is balance. Okay, so that is how you predict products for decomposition. So let's do one more example. Let's do NaCl. We know this is decomposition because it just has one compound. So since we know it's decomposition, first thing we need to do is separate elements and put a plus sign in between. So we have Na plus Cl. Step 2, check if element is diatomic. So is Na in this list? No, so we just leave it alone. Cl is in this list, so we will put a 2 right there. And then step 3, you will need to balance this reaction. Again, if you need help with balancing, just let me know. I'll be happy to help you. For time's sake though, in this video, I'm not going over balancing because I go over that in the balancing video. All right, so that brings us to single replacement. Okay, so single replacement. The way to identify single replacement, you have a compound plus an element. So if you have a compound and an element, it'll be single replacement, and you'll follow the following steps. Step 1, write charge for each element. So first one we have is Li, which has a +1 charge. I'm just going to write it above. Then we have Cl, which has a -1 charge. And then Mg has a +2 charge. 2. Bond the single element with the element in the compound with opposite charge. Put the positive charge element first. Again, you do need to be writing down these steps in your notes. Okay, so here, the element by itself is Mg. That has a +2 charge. It's going to bond with the element that has a negative charge. Since this is positive, it wants to bond with the negative. So that means it's going to bond with Cl. Now you need to put the one with the positive charge first. So Mg will be written first, and then you'll put Cl. So step 3, crisscross charges for the elements bonding. Okay, so Mg we know is +2, Cl is -1. We crisscross that. So that's going to make it MgCl2. Step 4. Check if other element is diatomic. So the element that got kicked out is Li. You check and see if Li is on this list. It's not, so we will leave it alone. If it was on this list, you would put a 2. And then step 5, make sure you wrote this down. Step 5, I'll put right here, is balance. Okay, so let's do one more example of single replacement. Let's do KCl plus F. Step 1, write charge for each element. So let's find K. It has a +1 charge. Cl has a -1 charge. F has a -1 charge. Bond the single element with the element in the compound with opposite charge. Put positive charge element first. So here we have a -1. It's going to bond with the positive element. Since this is negative, it'll bond with the positive. So we do write the positive element first, so that'll be K. It has a +1 charge. F has a -1 charge. We crisscross, and that gives us KF. Then we just add a plus sign, put the element that was kicked out. Okay, so that was step 3, crisscross charges for elements in bond. Step 4, check if other element is diatomic. So Cl. Our diatomic elements are H, N, O, F, Cl, Br, I. Well, Cl is on this list, so that means we need to put a 2 right there. And then your last step, step 5, you balance. So that is how you do single replacement. Again, to identify if it is a compound plus an element, then it will be single replacement. Okay, next is double replacement. So double replacement, to identify this, you will have a compound plus a compound. So since it's a compound plus a compound, you're going to follow the next steps. Step 1, write charges for each element. So Li is +1, Cl is -1, Mg is +2, O is -2. The opposite charges bond by crisscrossing. Put positive charge element first. Okay, so since this is positive, it's going to bond with the negative. Since this is positive, it's going to bond with the negative. So we have Li and we have O. Li is +1, O is minus 2. Make sure your positive 1 is written first. So you crisscross, that 1 goes here, that 2 goes there, so it'll be Li2O. Now, we know that Mg is going to bond with Cl. So if we have Mg, which is plus 2, and we have Cl, which is minus 1, make sure you write the positive charged element first. So we'll crisscross, that 2 goes here, that 1 goes there, so that'll be MgCl2. I'm going to write that right here. MgCl2. Step 3, balance. All right, so now that we have the steps, let's do one more example together. Let's do KF plus CaBr2. So we have a compound plus a compound. First thing, we write the charges for each. K is a plus 1. F is minus 1. Ca is plus 2. Br is minus 1. Okay, now when doing these, when making these bonds, do not worry about the subscript. Like right here, Br has a 2. Basically, you just need to ignore that. So this positive is going to bond with the negative, and this positive is going to bond with that negative. So we have K and we have Br. We know K is plus 1, Br is minus 1. When we crisscross, that's just going to be KBr. Our next element, we have Ca, which is plus 2, and we have F, which is minus 1. Make sure you put your positive charged element first. You crisscross, and that's going to give you CaF2. And then you would balance this reaction. Last but not least, we have combustion. I think this is the easiest one to predict out of all of them. So how to identify combustion? Combustion are reactions that only have C, H, and O. So if you notice there's only C, H, and O, then you need to do combustion. Step 1, put H2O plus CO2 as product. There's no crisscrossing. There's no looking at charges. You just need to know that every single time you put H2O plus CO2. Step 2, you balance it. That's it. That's all you have to do with combustion. So let's do another example. C6H4O2 plus O2 is what? Well, here you have a reaction that only has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So since you know it only has those 3 elements, you put H2O plus CO2, and then you'll balance. That's it. If you are stuck on any of these predicting problems, or if you need help with your practice, please let me know. I know this is kind of difficult. It's a lot to learn, especially if you're learning through these videos, so you can't stop and ask questions. So I want you to feel like you can communicate with me. I'll be happy to help. I'll be happy to plan Google Meets if you need me to go over things with you. I could give you more practice problems, whatever you need me to do. I just want you all to know that I am here for you all, and I will help you if you need it. And I hope you have a great day.